the lead you buy this month, you may not deliver that one until December or January, but it's better to have to wait till January to then not sell them a car at all and have somebody else sell.
Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is L.A. Williams, and I am here on the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. And man, I'm super excited today. As you all know, the 20 group is like right around the corner. So if you don't have your tickets, if you don't have what you need, then I don't know what to tell you. You better hurry up, right? Because it's about to go down. And so I guess, quote unquote, celebration, right? In preparation for the 20 group, I really want to bring to you some of the people who are going to be speaking, just kind of introduce them to you, let you hear a little bit about their story. That way, when you get the chance to meet them in person, it'll be that much warmer, right? It'll be, you'll know, you'll have a little background. So today, man, I have one of my, I really want to call him a good friend, but the problem is he's a fan of a team that just kind of whooped on my team. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I could. No, this guy's a great guy, man. And I definitely want to introduce to the world, man, the Millionaire Car Salesman listenership. My main man from Interactive Financial, Bob Harwood. What's happening, Bob? Vice President of Sales.
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
Man, I'm excited, man. Excited to get the chance to have this conversation with you. So, man, so you're going to be speaking at 20 group. Is this what I know you've been to ones before, right? What number is this for you?
Oh, man. 6 or 7.
Wow. Okay, good. So pretty good relationship. You've been to, basically half of the Internet Sales 20 group. So talk a little bit about why, before we even get into your personal, story and stuff, tell people why you keep coming back.
A couple reasons. The biggest one is the format of the Internet Sales 20 group is by far the best of any conference or convention we go to. Mm-hmm. The days of having one expo hall where all the vendors are lined up, just grabbing at people are going away. Nobody likes that experience. So the way Sean's set up the Internet Sales 20 group, where everyone's in the same room and it's all one big interaction. So now as a vendor, instead of feeling like I'm tackling people to see if they're a good fit, at breaks, I'm having conversations with people who are coming up to me because of something I said, or I'm going to them about something they said, and we're just having a normal conversation to see if there's a good fit for us to work together. So it takes the pressure and the weirdness off of that interaction.
Cool, man. Yeah, I totally
And then the speakers, of course, are amazing.
Yeah, man, it's pretty powerful stuff. Cool. So tell them about you, because you're going to be speaking at the 20 group, right?
I am. We spoke in Nashville, really had a good time with that. And when Sean asked us to come back and speak again, of course, we were very excited. Getting in front of people that are fans of Sean is always exciting things for us, because that means we've got a room full of people who are excited to sell cars, excited to figure out how to do more with the internet, and are willing to come learn new things. So we're always excited to be there.
Absolutely. So tell the people a little bit about you. Like, how did you even get in the automotive industry? I know most people don't wake up and go, Mommy, Daddy, I want to sell cars, right? So what was it that got you started?
Very little of my career was something I woke up and said, hey, this sounds like fun. Honest answer is I wasn't a great student in high school. Had a lot of fun, but wasn't a great student. So at 19, I had a pregnant girlfriend, didn't know what to do. So I joined the Army. I spent 4 years in the 82nd Airborne jumping out of planes, and realized that as much as I liked doing that, that wasn't going to be a career. So when I left the Army, I was lucky enough to get hired at Capital One, which is based here in Richmond, Virginia. Worked there for a while and was part of the group when they bought Summit Auto Finance that helped transition Capital One into doing automotive finance. So when I decided to leave Capital One, I wanted to go do retail sales. So I went to work for a dealership here locally for a couple of years. Learned a lot, and at the same time, my family was growing. I had 4 young kids, and the hours of retail car business were just not conducive to that. So a friend told me about this company, Interactive Financial in Richmond, that I didn't know a lot about, and I put in an application, came down and had some conversations, and it was an exciting opportunity. So I've been here since 2004, learning about how to really be effective with selling leads and talking to the best dealers in the country at it.
Cool, man. So let's rewind a little bit. So you were in the automotive industry. You were on the sales floor right when the internet stuff kind of started to begin. So what was your experience with dealing with, internet leads and things like that? I guess that would have been 2001, 2, 3, stuff like that.
I left retail in 2004, and the dealership I worked at, we didn't have any internet leads. I was at a Ford store. We had 4 direct leads, but literally I got I got a printout of leads to call, and I was like most salesmen or a lot of salesmen, and I might call through them once until I saw somebody wander on the lot, then I'd go out and chase that person. So I had very little experience and very little knowledge with the internet when I came to work here.
Wow. And so, the crazy thing is that the story that you just told about what you did is that, 15 years later, we still got people doing the same thing. So kind of, so talk about that, because now obviously you understand leads is, it's kind of what you do and things like that. Can you break that, like the shift in mindset? What would you say now to a person that's doing exactly what you did?
Well, I would say that the industry has moved, right? People aren't just coming on a lot on a Saturday, having done no research and just wander around looking at cars. Everyone is starting on the internet, whether they're going to a dealership's website, whether they're going to manufacturers' websites, some of the inventory websites, a company like mine where we deal with people with challenge credit, they're Googling something to do with getting financed and landing on our page. So everyone is originating on the internet. So if you're not spending a lot of time learning how to best interact with internet leads, how to maximize the number of people you can get in the door to work deals with, then you're not giving yourself the best chance to succeed. Everyone I talk to that is doing 40, 50 cars a month is doing something on the internet and really just has a machine built to get those customers in the door so they can have the most opportunities to sell cars.
Now, I was going to say you weren't really selling me in the beginning of it. You're the vice president of sales, right? So I'm going to challenge you because my whole thing is that you could tell me that, but basically I don't believe you because, I got these leads and I'm going to call through them. And, as soon as I see somebody on the lot, I'm jumping up and I'm going to go see if I can help that person. So as a vice president of sales, I need you to really sell me. You did it with the last little bit, the ending part. I mean, because I know I want to sell 40, 50 cars, but I'm a salesperson. And so I don't really want to make a bunch of phone calls. I just want to get the stuff that's right there on the lot because it's now money. So what would you say to me?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I would start answering your question by saying you probably don't need to make a lot of phone calls anymore. It's now a combo, right? So you need to be well-versed in how to make phone calls, how to send text, and how to send email. And I can speak obviously a lot more about my product than most. So when I send a lead to a dealership, we don't send a lead that hasn't opted in for texting already. And the story I tell frequently, because it's true, is I can call any of my kids right now. They're 25, 21, 20, and 19. Any one of them I pick up the phone and call, they will not answer the phone, but they'll text me right back and say, "What's up?" So the world has changed. And, when I started doing this in 2004, I would talk to dealerships and they would say, "I don't believe in the internet." Well, it did exist, and it turns out it's probably here to stay. Now I'm talking to BDC managers who are saying, we don't really want to text, or we only want to text in a certain fashion because we have our platform built. And when somebody lands and they want this car, these are the texts they're going to get in this order. And what I say to every dealership is if you don't understand the difference between the various leads you're working and you're trying to make it a one-size-fits-all, you're setting yourself up to fail. So truly successful internet departments work with a company like mine. When we go live with a new relationship, we don't do it until someone goes through training and understands the consumer experience, the consumer expectations, and best practices. And I'm sure most of the inventory-based leads do the same thing. I'm sure most of the new car leads do the same thing. So I would tell any dealer who is thinking about signing up for any kind of leads, understand what you're buying and know that a lead is not a lead is not a lead. And, in my space, there's some great companies that do a great job and have a good product of people that want to buy cars. There's also a lot of people out there that have a really inexpensive product and you get what you pay for. So, like with anything, do due diligence and understand what you're signing up for before you buy anything.
Totally agree with that, man. And it's so crazy because, as the blind phone master, right, I've known for a while, right, I can't just be, great at showing folks how to make phone calls. It is about the text message version of it, right? It is about emails. Listen, it's smartphones now. It's about videos, right? So you got to be good at doing everything. I always share with my wife that, your phone is your $1 million. I mean, you just pretty much got to have it, right? People are like, I want to disconnect from the world and sit my phone down and all that. All right, well, you're going to be losing money because everything is now done even more so than before over the phone. So I totally understand where you're coming from. So talk a little bit about just the money side of it, right? From a financial standpoint, let's say, all right, you convinced me. I'm going to do this whole lead thing, right? How do I, turn that into a financial gain for me, especially if you're dealing with subprime, because I know that, that's kind of what interactive financial really focuses on. Is that accurate?
That's entirely accurate. That is our bread and butter. So speaking about our product, the profitability is almost a foregone conclusion if a process is followed properly. Mm-hmm. So what we know is of the leads we send to dealers, about 40% are going to buy a car within 60 days. And Ellie, I'd love to tell you that they always buy a car from the dealership we send the lead to. The reality is that doesn't always happen. Mm-hmm. And most of the times when we go back through and follow up with customers and do customer surveys and find out why they didn't buy from our dealer partner, the number one answer by far is we never heard from anybody. So process. We preach this all day, every day. But especially with finance leads, the goal of a phone call or of an initial engagement is not to get too deep into working the deal. We just want to get the person in the door. Mm-hmm. And we know if we can get 30% of the people into the door, which is our national average, then the closing percentages are going to vary store to store based on inventory and lenders and the things we all know that kind of impact how many deals you can get done. But if you buy 100 leads and it costs you, somewhere, depending on the market, $2,500, $3,000, and you get 30 bodies in the door and you only close a third of them, you sell 10 cars. So the ROI there isn't real tough math. You're going to be a winner on that deal.
Good stuff. All right. So if I got 100 leads, 30 of them are going to come in the door, or what is the 30% of what?
That's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
Again, our leads come directly from our website. We don't advertise for consumers at all. It's all folks who have sat down, gone to Google, gone to whatever search engine and typed in some keywords that, hey, I'm looking for a car and how do I finance it? So we know, with finance leads in general, we know they're low funnel folks who are just looking for some help. Mm-hmm. But they're also gun shy. They're kind of scared of dealerships because they've probably already been in somewhere that doesn't deal with challenge credit, that broomed them out and hurt their feelings.
Yes.
So if the process is followed properly, getting 30% of the people in, not hard at all. Mm-hmm. If it's not, then it's near impossible. It's really how you interact with the consumer and understanding where their headspace is and how to meet them in their headspace rather than try and drag them into ours.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're talking about a process, and I don't want you to kind of give details, but what are some of the things? Like, what do you say? Because, I do deal with people and everybody's like, oh, customers thinking, okay, just come on down. And of course, they have already had their feelings hurt, like you just said. So what is it that makes this different? And what am I supposed to say different to this person to show them the value from your perspective?
Well, essentially, we look for, first, it's a continuity of message. So our most successful dealers, rather than saying, hey, I'm calling from Synergy Motors, mm-hmm. if that conversation starts out with, hey, I'm calling about your carloan.com application, it's a completely different mindset for that consumer, right? Because mm-hmm. they go into that conversation not thinking about your store or your brand. Mm-hmm. They're thinking about the financing. So if they get a call from, hey, I'm calling from wherever, Ford or Volkswagen, then it puts them a little off because that's not the car they're thinking of. And everyone has a car in mind. Now, we know that special finance people, even more than the average consumer, aren't going to end up with the car they think they have in mind. Mm-hmm. But if they are thinking they really, really want a Jeep Wrangler and they first call us from a Kia store, well, now it's another objection to overcome before we even started. Mm. Whereas if we call from that Kia store and say, hey, I'm calling about your carloan.com application, great news. I've got a bunch of lenders that are really excited to work with you. Just need you to come in and finish off this paperwork, get everything straight so we can get you in the car that best fits your family's needs and budget. Well, then they're going to say, well, I only want a Jeep Wrangler. You know what, Mr. Customer, Carloan.com is in this dealership because this is the spot that has the best inventory and the widest array of lenders in the market. So we'll get you whatever car you qualify for that fits your needs.
Wow. See, now that's a word I have not, and for as many times if I've worked with, special finance, I've never heard someone say it that way. So I think that kind of goes back to training. Keep going. You're killing it on that one.
Well, and before we go, what I'm glad to do because of the great relationship between our company and yours, anyone who wants our training materials, we have the best practices, word tracks, text message suggestions, emails. We have all that in our training guide. I'm glad to send it to any dealer synergy company or customer who wants it, so they can reach out to me directly or reach out through you, and I'm glad to send it on.
Cool, man.
But our entire focus is, it truly is get everybody in the door. And I was in a dealership last week in, I don't remember where I was last week, Chicago. And the conversation was, well, we want to pull credit on every lead first because we don't want to invite people in here that we just can't get done. And the issue there is twofold. One, I'm sure you are very familiar with trigger leads, but I'm finding more and more dealers aren't terribly familiar with what they are. So for those who don't know, a trigger lead, essentially, if you have a customer walk in the store, you get a lead, wherever you get a consumer from, when you pull credit on that customer today, well, now the bureaus in the next day or two are going to sell that customer as a trigger lead. So basically telling their dealers that are buying that lead, hey, this is someone who was in a dealership in the last day or two that had their credit pulled. So I sell my leads exclusively. So I sell them only the LA Williams. If you pull credit on it today before you've even talked to this person, well, tomorrow now you're competing with 4 or 5 other dealerships for that same customer that you got from me. so that's a problem. But more so, if you're a dealership who has any investment in special finance, then you need to be willing to bring everyone in. And yes, there are going to be the occasional person who gets their feelings hurt because you bring them in and you can't get them done. And I equate that to, I've also sat down across a table from somebody who was an 830 who lost their mind because I couldn't get them a half a point of rate. So regardless of the credit score, some customers aren't going to walk out happy just because that's the nature of people. But I have found that even the folks we can't get done, if we sit down with them and invest literally only 5 minutes in a meaningful conversation of, hey, Mr. Customer, I don't have a bank that'll work with you right now, or they will, but you need a lot of money down. But let's look at your credit. If you can clean up these couple things, then I probably will have a better way to go with you. And now you put that person into your CRM for a normal follow-up. When they do get to the point that they've gotten their life a little more straight, who are they going to call, right? They're not coming back to a third party. They're going back to you. So that's just filling that pipeline. And, Sean and our company have had an ongoing debate for 15 years of who came up with the term residual flow factor. We both use it a lot. But it's true, right? So that is part of that residual flow factor, where the lead you buy this month, you may not deliver that one until December or January, but it's better to have to wait till January to then not sell them a car at all and have somebody else sell.
Absolutely. And listen, you speak in my language, because what I say is that, you become that person's financial coach, right? And so now, instead of them just, like you said, going out into the marketplace, they're going back to a familiar person, someone who actually helped them, someone who gave them some value, right? Versus just being like, oh no, we couldn't get you approved and you're on your own. You know what I'm saying? You got all these, and I don't mean to say names. I'm just going to say them just for the sake of things, like the Lexington laws and just different places to say, oh, we can help work on your finances. We can help work on your finances. Even my company, right? I help people work on finances, and, so many, like, I'll deal with a real estate agent and I'm like, listen, you should work with my company. Why? Because you can help people. More people than not are going to not be approved for buying a house, right? You're going to run into more of that. So why don't you become their financial coach and coach them into a situation where they can buy a house? And now, who are they going to come to? They obviously going to come to you. It's just a matter of just having a net, right? When it comes to money and finance, and this is the Millionaire Car Salesman listenership, you got to have more nets, right, to catch more of the money. So again, it just puts you in position to be more valuable. The more valuable you are, the more money you're going to make. That's just bottom line. You know what I'm saying? Very
much agree. No, so our customers, more than probably the average or consumer customers, they just want to be treated respectfully, right? They know they've got some issue on their credit, and a lot of them are truly great, hardworking people who something went wrong medical, or they got divorced and they're just behind the 8 ball and need some help. And those are the folks that you work with them. yeah, maybe you take a skinny deal the first time, but you got a customer for life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Huge stuff. All right. So talk to the people about, some of the habits that you found, because you talked about some of the mistakes that people make. And, my whole thing is that, of course, there are scripts available. That's why it's interesting, because you're like, we'll send the scripts to whoever, because the crazy part is just most folks just don't use them. You know what I'm saying? And it's ridiculous. So we know some of the mistakes that they make, but what are some of the habits of the most successful people at the dealership or just in the dealership world? What are they doing that the folks that are making all these mistakes are not doing, or the other way around?
Number one's tenacity. It's just a reality that leads in generally don't answer the phone the first call, no matter how quickly you call. It seems the first call we get voicemails, they don't recognize the number. Mm-hmm. And I see so often with our leads where I'll look in our system for a dealer that's struggling, and I'll see one call, maybe a text, and then they're on to the next lead. So I think the folks who do well understand the value of a lead and the life cycle of a lead, and are willing to get creative to find new ways to get in front of people. I was talking to a dealer recently who had a really cool idea for folks that he had a good conversation with, but he couldn't get them in. He would send them a little notepad looking thing that looked like a foot. And he just mail it to him with a little note that says, "Now that I have one foot in the door, can I get the other, please?" And little stuff like that is just it's gold, right?
Yes.
And now with the advent of Facebook, I'm seeing a ton of people that they get leads and they're connecting with these folks on Facebook and just shooting them a quick Facebook Messenger every now and again. Hey, where are we? What can I do to help? When can we get together? And if you are invested in yourself and your success, then having a process that okay, when I get a lead, here's my 90-day follow-up plan for that lead if I haven't sold them a car yet. And I don't think that needs to necessarily be hardwired into VIN or eLead or whatever CRM a dealership's using, unless you are able to do that by lead source. Because again, the follow-up process for a finance lead is a heck of a lot different than one that saw a specific car on your lot, reached out, said, "Yeah, I'm interested in that car."
Absolutely.
And we struggle with that a decent amount, especially in the larger dealerships that are getting thousands of leads. If my product gets just dumped into the normal BDC churn, then we've got an uphill battle, because we don't want to talk about down payments and trade-ins and interest rates and all that stuff with our customers until they're in the door.
Yeah. Totally understand where you come from. All right. So listen, because you got a whole lot of knowledge, man, and you're breaking it down for folks, right? What do you read? Is there certain books that you read? Folks, my listeners always know that I guess I always have some sort of a book recommendation. So what's a book that you recommend and why?
Man, I'm a history nut. So I just finished like a deep dive on World War II, and now I'm kind of going through the Civil War. So fiction-wise, I just reread John Jake's North and South. It's a 3-book trilogy, which is it's an amazing look at the Civil War from both sides through kind of two families, one in the North, one in the South. And then I've been reading a lot on the nonfiction side of Bill O'Reilly, and half the people probably just turned off the podcast. So I'll preface, I'm not a Bill O'Reilly fan, but his writing is much different than his political show. And he does something similar where he deep dives on a topic, and it's a series of books called Killing Whoever. So it's like Killing George Washington. There's one Killing Jesus. And it really looks from a more historical perspective and takes out some of the fluff and the stories we hear, and kind of deep dives into here's what actually happened with these people, from a historical perspective. So it's really interesting stuff.
Nice. So what does that do for you from a just a business, a career standpoint? How does that affect how you operate?
God, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that. I read a lot, both work related and non, and all of it helps me because as I am reading, for instance, the Civil War stuff or the World War II stuff, you start to look at how, from that 10,000-yard view, how the leadership maneuvers and plans, and everything becomes about planning the next move. Yes. So in our business, very much, we've been successful because our CEO, Travis Weissleader, has always been the best I've ever seen at seeing around corners and seeing what's next. And I am constantly trying to learn how to be better at that. But I think reading those kind of books helps me to take a step back and go, okay, here's where we are right now. Here's what the industry looks like. What's it going to look like in a week, a month, a year? And what can we do to be ahead of that curve?
Wow. Really good stuff, man. I totally agree with that because I'm a big, trilogy reader and things like that. And I think it's actually really fun to read it the second time because now you already know what's going to happen. So now I get to read it from the perspective of the brand new reader. But then you also go, okay, because I know what's about to happen, I understand even deeper, why this is important and little foreshadowing things that authors do. So I love it.
Now, I assume you're a fan of Audible?
Yep. My wife and I
am
listen
as
to it
well.
almost every day.
I am a huge fan. It's opened up the ability to get a lot more books, air quotes, read because, in the car, if I'm not on a phone call, it's nice to just throw on a book and listen to something.
Mm-hmm. I have so many different libraries too. And it's one of those things where I know initially, obviously I grew up on audiobooks, right? Books on tape and all of that different type of stuff, being a blind guy, right? And so it's just interesting because when, sighted people do it, it's like, hey, you guys do what I do.
Yeah, we stole your tools.
Right? It's kind of cool though. I'm willing to share them. So, all right. So now we talked about, different things that people are doing. Talk about the value of training and what you recommend people train on and how often should they train, even dealing with your specific product. You run into people, like you said, they know, or we tell them the right stuff to do and they still do what they want to do. So do you think it's because of training, or talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's to me, the most important part of a successful lead strategy is training and ongoing and constant training. So every product we've developed in probably the last, I'd say at least 5 years, has not been a new market innovation. Here's a brand new product. It's been something because we've seen a hole in what happens in dealerships. So when we created our automated texting platform, it was because we saw that dealerships weren't doing it or weren't doing it well. When we created our word tracks and our scripts, it's because we heard what was being said. And we said, okay, this isn't very good. Let's do something different. When we started our BDC, it was because we saw we had dealerships that just weren't doing a job contacting leads. But the hardest thing when I have conversations, and I tell our team this a lot, is if we stumble out of a relationship, we get a new dealer and things don't start off well, and we call 2 weeks into the general manager or owner and say, hey, we're concerned. Here are the issues we see. We'd like to set up training with your team to readdress this stuff we went over during the initial training, but to reinforce it now. Well, now we're a good vendor who cares about the relationship. If we have that same conversation 3 months into the relationship, we're just some jerks who are making excuses for a crappy product, right? And that's just the truth of the situation. So we try and be very aggressive and very upfront of, we want to be involved when we bring on a new customer. They're in we call it our 14-day quick start program, where the account manager and trainer on this side are in contact with the dealership daily, at least every other day, to understand what the results are, what the struggles are. So we're kind of anticipating in a new relationship, we're going to have 2 to 3 trainings, an initial training, and then a couple follow-ups once we see what's happening on the ground and see where kind of the holes are in the process we can help shore up. Mm-hmm. But if you're not scheduling ongoing training for your team in every aspect, right? So finance leads require a different mindset than inventory leads, than mailers. So the team in a dealership, there could be a 15-minute scheduled training every day on something. For our sales team here, I have realized that my voice gets old, so I've started bringing in guest speakers to help reinforce some of the stuff we talked about with our sales team. So I've been privileged to have LA Williams do a sales meeting for us. And I tell you what, my folks are still asking, when's LA coming back? So they definitely enjoy hearing you more than me.
Cool, man. I appreciate it, man. It's just, like you said, I mean, it's just that working togetherness of it, because a prophet is not a prophet in his own land, right? So it's just a matter of doing it that way.
That's true.
And I love what you said, man, because, they say a genius needs to hear something 150 times before they get it. So how much more for the rest of us? So if they're hearing it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and we expect them to get it, it's like, who's crazy? You know what I'm saying? It's on us, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And you introduced something else that I think is really deep when you said the mindset, right? So many people attack different leads, different situations with the same mindset. And that's what has them in trouble. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why people aren't successful is because, they look at everything as being the same. Now, here's the thing. You can have a process that is, a strong process. You can say, okay, this is what we do. But when you look at things, the way you attack something, the way you operate with something, it's got to be totally different. I always say that I look at sales like dating, right? And so, generally, okay, date might be a dinner and a movie. But if it's the same exact date with all these different, partners, it's like, it's going to get really whack really quick.
Like Groundhog's Day, yeah.
Oh, man, it'd be horrible. So awesome stuff. You're really bringing a lot of value, man, and I appreciate it. So tell us, what is it that you love about the automotive industry? What is it, that even kind of has you here? Because you could be doing a whole bunch of different stuff. You was working at Capital One. What you love about automotive?
It's absolutely the people. And I think the automotive mindset is one you either really are attracted to or you really aren't. And I, in the 16 years since I started here, I was gone for a year. Company got sold, and long story, but it wasn't very pleasant. So I left and went with our owner Travis until he was able to buy this company back. And during that time, though, we were doing marketing for restaurants, and everybody talks about car dealers and the attitudes and the egos. And I tell you what, I don't have a problem with a guy having a little bit of ego when he's built a business that's making millions of dollars a year and selling, hundreds or thousands of cars a year. Mm-hmm. You get to have you've earned a little ego.
Right.
Talking to a guy who, has had his burger restaurant for 6 weeks and is losing money, their egos are bigger and they're harder to get along with. So I love everything about the car person mentality. I like that it's, for the most part, our business is you eat what you kill, right? Either you come in and you succeed or you don't. And the weak are kind of shuffled off to the side pretty early. So the folks in the dealership that have gotten to be in management positions, they know what they're doing. They've worked hard. They know the grind of getting to that spot. No one's handing you a GSM position. No one's handing you a GM position. No one's handing you an internet director position. Mm-hmm. These people are all folks who came in, said, this car business I've heard some bad things. I don't know, but let me try it. And went, you know what? This is the best industry in the world because it's all merit-based. It doesn't matter your gender, your ethnicity, your religion. It's all you. What you put into it, you get out of it and nothing more.
I love it, man. You are really giving some value. So that he said it's all merit based. I love that. That was my favorite line right there.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to play favorites, right? I mean, I guess we've all worked in a dealership where somebody was getting some bones here and there, but at the end of the day, you're not going to succeed except for on your own sweat. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man. Good stuff. All right. So again, I know you're going to be at the Internet Sales 20 Group, right? Give people a little bit of a quick commercial on what you're going to be talking about. You can tell them what your session title is going to be. And then we'll do kind of like let them have a way to get in contact with you specifically before we close it out.
Absolutely. So my topic, I think the topic title, I can't remember what I called it, but I think it's getting your unfair share. Mm-hmm. And really what it's talking about is not just how to dominate in subprime, which we certainly will talk about, but how subprime, specifically third-party internet leads, are not limited to specific makes, models, or brands. Our biggest growth sector right now is actually Highline. And I wanted to share with Sean's folks kind of the strategy of what people are doing to make that successful. So I'm in Richmond, so Richmond BMW, they go to their 20 group, they realize that people are just making a killing in subprime. So they come back, okay, we want to do that too. But you can't, as a BMW, Lexus, Mercedes store, you can't go on TV and say, hey, your job is your credit, come on down, right? Because now you're scaring off your core. Mm-hmm. However, if you partner with a company like mine, where it's all agnostic. So all of the advertising is in my name. It's allcarloan.com. Essentially, the dealership's name is not even in the conversation until that lead has been handed off from us to them. So if you go that process, you buy some cars that you don't throw on your normal website that you reserve for special finance. It's truly not changing much in the dealership other than training one or two people on how to handle subprime customers. And at the end of the day, what you end up with is a happy dealer because he's getting to do some of the more profitable subprime deals, and happy consumers because if I'm a challenge credit customer. I'd much rather drive around with Richmond BMW on the back of my car than, JD Byrider or, Bob's Buy Here, Pay Here.
Right.
So it's a mutually beneficial relationship where the customers are happy, the dealers are happy, everyone wins. But I think so many higher line stores are going, well, that's not our customer. We can't advertise for it. And we don't really want to have those folks wandering in the store all day. So and those folks is the term that drives me absolutely out of my mind.
Yeah.
As though you could line up 10 people and say, okay, well, that one's an 800 and that one's a 400. We've got a really successful relationship in kind of in the Beverly Hills area. So whenever somebody tells me, well, we don't have special finance here, I reference that store and say, well, if you make $25,000 a month, but you spend 30, guess what? You're special finance.
Exactly.
So income, intellect, none of that really drives who our consumers are. And, for every 520 that might come into the showroom and show their butt a little bit, I can find you an 850 that'll do the same thing for a different reason.
100%, man. Good stuff. All right. So for the people who hear this week and they're like, you know what, I want to see it at the 20 group, man, but I want to do something now. I want to talk more about this now, right? How should people reach out to you? How can they get in contact with you?
They can call me at the office, which is 804-225-1880. And my extension directly to me is 166. Cell phone might be even better, and that's 804-933-6836. Or you can email, which is just Bob@interactive, and then F like Frank, M like Mary, G like golf.com. Or I'm in the Millionaire Car Salesman group, so hit me on Facebook, and I'm glad to chat there as well.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. All right, so just give us a closing statement. We talked about a lot of good stuff. What's the closing statement and how we want to, what is the one thing you definitely want the Millionaire Car Salesman listeners to hear?
Besides, how about them Cowboys?
Ooh, I would have edited out so bad, but I'm not going to do it. Ooh, I want to do it.
I guess what I want everybody to know is that subprime, it's not a scary word. It's not a different customer than what everybody's already working with now. It's the same customer, just a more profitable version.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff, man. I'm telling you, that was just, killing it right there, man. Listen, I always say it. You are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with, and you've just been spending time with L.A. Williams and Mr. Bob Harwood. So listen, go out there and be a millionaire car salesman. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, L.A.
Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to bradleyondemand.com and take your career to the next level.